Yeah.
You know?
I'm going to play this real quick because it's about 5 seconds, and I don't want to misquote Taylor Lorenz,
Yeah.
but she had something to say along these lines.
Of course.
And I think when we think about free speech, we have to think about whose speech is free, right?
So when we talk about free speech, I think we have to think about whose speech is free.
Right.
Courtesy of Taylor Lorenz,
What the fuck
piece of
are
shit
you
extraordinaire.
talking about, you dumb bitch?
Because if you give everybody free speech, that means the bad guys have free speech too. And we can't have Elon Musk, who is a bad person, who is revolutionizing the carbon-free, what was it say, the electric car market and helping out against fossil fuels and all this shit. He's a bad guy. And so we can't give him free speech. That's not good. If somebody comes on this platform with hateful rhetoric, we don't want them to have free speech to be able to hurt everybody's feelings or cause harm by, within the trans community by dead naming somebody. I mean, what are we talking about here? This person is, we're going to talk more about her in part 4, and she is a completely and utterly unhinged human being. And there's so many bad takes about this, man. Now, well, I guess I'm going to leave, and people doing it on like TikTok and shit.
Right.
I guess I'm going to leave Twitter now because fascist Elon Musk is buying Twitter now. So there goes Twitter. It's been real, guys. I'm going to go now. I'm going to go deactivate my account, and then I'm going to proselytize about it on TikTok. Seems like a great idea.
For a day and then
This
came
piece
back
of
to
shit.
Twitter.
Sean
Nonsense.
King
No, there was
is and
also
always will be a piece of shit.
Brian Stelter, right? When he's on there, and I don't remember who he was talking to, but he said if you hear about a party and there's no rules and anybody can do whatever they want, is that a party you want to go to?
Yes.
Yeah, you're a lame ass. You're a lame ass, Brian Stelter.
What kind of sheltered life do you live?
Should anybody be able to do whatever they want, or should only some people be able to do whatever they want? What are you talking about? You're a fascist. You're a crazy person.
Yes.
I'm going to
Brian
openly
Stelter is a
advocate for
fascist.
some people having more rights than other people. But it's only free speech, so it's okay. It's just your ability to express yourself and to be honest and call people out, and it's not a big deal. It's the same thing. It's not a big deal.
It's not a big deal.
What are you talking about?
Well, I would commend to you this piece from the powerful Douglas Murray, written in The Sun. He did a piece, Twitter is not fit for purpose. It's the Wild West, OK Corral, run by woke youngsters with too much power. Elon Musk will fix it. It's a verbose article, but it is a fantastic read. And obviously, yes, it's from The Sun, so there is just ads all over the place. But it is a fantastic read.
Look at that headshot.
He is a beautiful man.
Handsome man.
I'm
Good
not
for
gonna
him,
lie.
Douglas Murray.
I am so glad.
Beautiful voice. He's very funny too.
And he narrates his books, man.
Oh,
his
really?
his new book, War on the West, is out now. You can buy that. He does the audiobook for that. He wrote Strange Death of Europe. He wrote Madness of Crowds, and he's got more books before that.
I gotta get some Douglas Murray in next year's book club.
Madness of Crowds is fantastic.
Yeah.
I am about to pick up the audiobook for War on the West, and that's, I think, going to be fantastic.
Fire, yeah.
Oh yeah, and thank God he's been making around. So he just did a Joe Rogan. He did Bridget Fedesi. He did Michael Malice, and then last night I started to watch the Grimes interview from Lex Friedman,
Okay.
Elon Musk's ex-wife.
Yeah, yeah.
And I put that on the very end of the night right before I went to bed, kind of wind down and watch about 10 minutes of it. She is a fascinating human being.
I'm sure.
Oh
you
my
can't
God.
be married to Elon Musk.
She got stars on. She got stars on her face and stuff.
Like
it's
tattooed on her face?
no, like actual, like, you get a gold star for going, for doing good in kindergarten or something like that. Like those little stickers. She put them on her cheeks for the interview and stuff. But she is fascinating. She's definitely a musician. I will say that much. So anyways, yes, I highly commend to everybody this article from The Sun, a UK publication. Douglas Murray, Twitter is not fit for purpose. It's the Wild West run by woke youngsters with too much power. Elon Musk will fix it.
Is that your take?
That is generally my take, yeah.
Okay.
I think I'm one of the people that more or less trust in Elon's process.
Okay.
I don't necessarily trust him as a human, necessarily.
It's the name of this week's episode. Trust Elon's process.
Trust Elon's
Trust
process.
the Musk process.
But no, I do. I've seen what he's done with his other industries. He has revolutionized, like we've said before, the electronic car market. I mean, he has cornered the business. He made a electric vehicles that people actually wanted to buy and that are insanely powerful and insanely efficient. And he has an infrastructure system set up to support it. I mean, it's a whole deal. SpaceX commercialized for the very first time ever space transportation.
Reusable space transportation.
Yes, something that is not, $2 trillion and then it burns up in the atmosphere. I mean, this is stuff that continually just goes and goes and goes and goes, and parts get replaced, and they're launching people up to the space station. I mean, stuff that has not happened since the late 60s and early 70s. I mean, once the Challenger blew up, man, it all kind of just got real, I think, for everybody. And he was like, well, we're going to push through and do this anyways. And he's been incredibly efficient with that. I mean, and that alone, I think, makes him the most important human being on the planet.
Oh, shit.
I think, because no one else is doing that. Nobody else did that until he did that. And then the rest of the billionaires got in line.
That's quite the claim.
I mean, Virgin Mobile guy, what's his name? Branson?
Yeah, Richard Branson.
Richard Branson. He had been trying to do the space thing for a long time, but he went about it in a very different way. Elon's like, I'm just going to build rockets and shoot them up in the sky. But I mean, he did it, man, and that is going to be a thing. That's a technology that cannot be undone. It will only be built upon into the future. And some of our deepest woes about mining, say, like the conflict minerals required for making batteries.
Right.
I mean, there might be a way that you could do that extraterrestrially. I mean, who knows? The opportunities are endless. He's got the boring company where he's like doing these fucking drilling holes and shit left and right underneath the ground.
Drill a hole on a different planet.
And that, yeah, because I don't know how much real use it has here. We have too much infrastructure in place already to like really make it a
Do you think
deal,
that's what he's doing? Do you think he's trying to just get all the different facets done so that he can just make Tesla the shit?
Yes. Yes, I think it's all, well, it's all in, I don't know if it's necessarily Tesla, but it's all in support of a common.
The Musk company the shit.
Right. And I think he's smart by having these different companies, right? But then he's also, so he's got the Boring Company, which made a cool flamethrower, made the Jeremy's Razor commercial possible because they used his flamethrower. The Starlink is a huge deal. That's a whole separate thing, and that's going to revolutionize.
Starlink?
Starlink is a
satellites, right?
Yes, it's a private satellite network for broadband internet.
Okay.
That it's broadband satellite internet. So essentially, right now you have satellite internet from a couple like cable communications companies and stuff like that, but it's shitty.
Okay.
We'd never be able to do this show off of that, but
we were running that fiber, baby.
Exactly. But the Starlink system is a massive series of satellites that will blanket eventually the entire globe, and so
it's legit.
So it is super legit. It is the way satellite internet should be.
Someone asked me when the whole Ukraine thing popped off, they're like, does Elon Musk have solar link or whatever over Ukraine? I was like, I have no idea. And first of all, I don't even know what that is. Like, I couldn't explain to you what that is.
Yeah, because
Second
essentially,
of all, I don't know.
Because essentially, what you do need, and I will say that they do have Starlink because he made sure to connect them to Starlink,
so that they could get some internet cracking.
He has his own Starlink satellites up there that relay data and messages and shit like that. And then you need a Starlink receiver on your end to be able to access the network and get your connectivity.
So he flew a space rocket into Ukraine and was like, here's your Starlink receiver.
Yes, I'm pretty sure it came in the back of a truck.
That's fucking lit, bro.
It comes like in a case, and then it's just like a modem or some shit that connects to the thing. It's probably like a little mini dish or an antenna.
It probably comes in like a weird Pelican case, just like a military computer.
Fuck yeah.
You flip it open,
and if it doesn't, take note, Musk.
Shit, Elon Musk. If
That's
it doesn't,
right.
it's probably packaged way cooler than that.
Hell, I liked at Bennick every now and again we'd get like a crate, like an actual wooden crate of something.
Yeah.
You go out there with a fucking hammer and like that's the way packaging should be. If I don't get my Starlink in a wooden crate, I'm fucking sending it back.
Yeah, that's how all our material still comes in big crates like that.
It's so much fun, dude.
Crates.
But yeah, that was the deal. He did that, and it's only so reliable because there's only so many satellites in the sky right now.
But into space.
But yeah, that's the thing, and you're gonna be out on safari in the middle of fucking Africa because you're gonna do safaris, and you'll be able to whip out your phone and be connected to Starlink because you got a Starlink phone or some shit like that, and then you're like in the middle of the absolute wilderness and be like, oh, let me check my Twitter.
Hitting up Insta.
Like, because you could do that shit with Starlink. And then on top of that, he's also got Neuralink going on, which is a little dystopian, especially for a guy who is distrustful of AI.
I'm not into that. I'm not into Neuralink. I'm not here for that.
I will say, if it's one of those technologies where it's like, if you're unplugged from the internet, I can get by it, because it's right now the focus for Neuralink is in
like fake limbs, right?
it's in habilitation, like rehabilitation. So like people that have spinal injuries that are paralyzed from down, like they can potentially fix that issue, or like, yeah, you lose feeling in your arm or something like that. You can help reconnect the neurons, I don't know, some crazy science hell shit. But it seems promising for that kind of deal. Somebody that couldn't hear might be able to hear again. Somebody that was blind might be able to see again. That's cool. But then there's also what happens if you turn the Wi-Fi on? That I don't know. But he's talked, I think in his original Joe Rogan experience, like appearance, he talked a little bit about essentially not having to like verbally communicate at that point, because you could, and that's. I'm like, I don't want it to do that, man.
like
But if a paralyzed person can walk again, I'm super down. And I would imagine they'd probably risk it at that point.
Yeah, because it's probably like the voting machines are like, you can't even connect them to the internet, but then there's like an Ethernet port in the back, you know?
Yeah.
They're like, you can't even connect to the internet, but there's.
But actually,
yeah. Get out of here.
But you could if you wanted.
Get out of here, bro. No, I'm not here for that. Okay, let's have some deeper discussion about. Well,
yes,
this wasn't deep, but deeper discussion. So I have some questions for you. So I'm not inherently against this, right? I think it's probably a good thing. I think Elon Musk owning Twitter is probably a good thing as far as the free speech aspect of Twitter goes, and the equity, if you will, for all people on Twitter. For everyone to be at the same point, for the equality of people on Twitter, I think this is probably a good thing. I am troubled by the fact that this is another billionaire purchasing effectively a portion of our culture. He's purchasing a portion of the way that people disseminate information freely amongst themselves. And so I'm having trouble differentiating at its core why this is different than Jeff Bezos owning the Washington Post. Because it seems, so there are obvious technical differences, right? That Jeff Bezos and the Washington Post, they're writing journalistic pieces that will be used on Instagram and stuff like that to, in effect, decide what is true and what is not true, right? Twitter effectively does the same thing by choosing what does and does not get disseminated, even though it sounds like under Elon Musk that's not going to be the way anymore.
No, because Biden's going to have a new administration of Ministry of Truth to
we'll
do that.
We'll get to that, right? We'll get to that.
Now, I'm going to put it in the words of Douglas Murray from his piece in the beginning, right? So he says, since Twitter effectively serves as the public town square, he said, failing to adhere to free speech principles fundamentally undermines democracy. This is in the words of Elon Musk that said that, right? This via Douglas Murray. Now, the reason I understand your concerns, and I will point to what we had talked about earlier today, I believe in part 1 of 4 here, where we talked about the benevolent dictator.
Okay.
This, I believe, is somebody that would become a benevolent dictator of a private company that would set some rules, create a platform that's profitable, and just let it go. I trust Elon I trust his process in this matter. Whereas if this was Jeff Bezos, I don't trust Jeff Bezos to not manipulate the Washington Post because of his track record already.
And because his principles are not as aligned with yours as Elon's are,
yes.
right? And that's where I get to like the more technical part. It's like I believe in that because I believe from what I know of them that Elon Musk's principles are more aligned with mine. Yeah. But that doesn't... That's where I start to struggle. But that doesn't change the inherent aspect, risk, that a billionaire now owns Twitter, privately owns a way that he acknowledges, a thing that he acknowledges is the public square. He now owns that privately. And if he wants to, even though I don't think that he will, or even if I don't think that he will, or whatever, he could do that, do the same thing that Jeff Bezos is doing with the Washington Post and fuck everybody over. Yeah. You know?
Well, and then there's always the question of, too, like, what happens after Elon Musk dies? Who gets it at that point? And is it going to fall into somebody else's hands that we don't trust? And I mean, I can get the concern for sure. I mean, that might be argument towards making something of a public utility out of a company like this. I mean, I guess that was an easier conversation when it was a publicly traded company, but now that it will be a privately owned company, I don't know, man. I don't know how to square that away because yeah, like you said, I do trust him to do this thing, but at the same time, he could have a traumatic brain injury tomorrow. He could hit his head or whatever and wake up a different person and become evil.
Right.
Like, it could certainly happen. I mean, he might have a change of heart. He might get a new girlfriend that, you know, sways him one way or the other. I mean, we've seen that happen before with celebrities and shit. I guess the inherent risk does not change. Maybe I'm just willing to stake a wager on it in this until we find something else. Because I don't think the way the public square, quote unquote, works these days, like, this is not where it's going to end. This is all evolutionary. We are in a process of where this thing is going to become, because the internet is still in its infancy, I think, as far as the human race is concerned. I think we've still got a long time on this planet, and we're not going to stop tinkering with this type of shit for a long time. And I think this is probably just one of the best stepping stones. It'll be a good test case, I think, to compare to the rest of social media, to see what happens when the policies and things like that Elon will enact, how they affect the platform as a whole. And then we're going to have to, you know, we've seen it with the rest of the major social media companies. When there's something that works, like Snapchat,
Okay.
you get Reels.
Yep.
Reels, there's a Taylor Lorenz stories. No, Reels is the
Snapchat,
same thing.
But Snapchat made stories first.
Okay.
And
Yes.
And so
It was
that's where you get
TikTok.
Instagram stories. Yes.
TikTok is Reels.
Yeah.
Stories was Snapchat. And we've seen that throughout. And the two major social media companies, I guess at this point, it's Facebook, who owns Instagram, and Twitter. Snapchat is still some weird Snapchat thing. And
Well, the reason that, this is a sidebar, but the reason that Instagram did that is because they tried to buy Snapchat, and Snapchat rejected their purchase offer.
like, bitch, see what happens
Yeah,
now.
and so they just made stories instead of
Yeah.
whatever Snapchat calls their thing something else.
Yeah. And so I think if there is something that does come out of this that is a net positive, the rest of social media will adopt it, because financially they won't really have a choice. Why are they not going to make more money by changing the way they do business? If Elon proves it as a pilot case or a test case and it proves positive, I think adoption on other social media platforms will be demanded by the users, if not seen by the boards and taken as a fiduciary responsibility.
Yeah.
So that's, you know, it's a very Republican small r like idea. This is a small test case in a single company in an ecosystem or an industry, and we'll see how his changes work out in the end. And I mean, hell, if he makes the wrong moves and it goes bankrupt, he'll just lose a bunch of money on it, and somebody else will buy it and try something else.
Welcome to the salt of the streets, coming at you every